Hey guys, it's Phil, aka Hakua, and today I have a deck profile for Kashtira. This is the deck that I brought to the Hartford, Connecticut Regional. Unfortunately, I went X3 and dropped, but for history's sake, I figured I'd just record a deck profile. Plus, this serves as a really nice testing for recording. I played a very cookie cutter list, which I will go right into. I played 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn, 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir, 3 copies of Kashtira Riseheart, which a lot of people are playing at 2, but I decided to play at 3 because I really wanted to see it. It was my 41st card, so it was totally cuttable, and I did end up breaking on it, so perhaps I should have cut it. And then the 1 copy of Scarecrow Kashtira and the 1 copy of Kashtira Ogre. Pretty standard stuff these days. Very cookie cutter, like I said. 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring because Brandon Despy is in the format. 3 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being because it's really good in the mirror match and it's also good against random rogue matches. And it's not actually conflicting because you can just summon the token in attack mode and then crash Nibiru into the token to clear your board. And for spells, I played 3 copies of Pressure Planet Wraith Saw, the field spell, and of course the 1 Terraforming to go with it. And then I played 3 copies of Kashtira Theosis and 3 copies of Kashtira Birth, both of which I think are very standard. Some people play 2 copies, but I feel like it's really important to see this card. And once it's on the field, you can really already start cycling Kashtira Unicorn to search extra copies of this out of your deck, so you're not top decking into it. That's how it should work, in theory at least. But of course, you can always still brick on it regardless. And of course, 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity, which is extremely standard because this is a deck that has a lot of 1-card starters. So this card helps you dig for them very easily. And of course, the reason why I'm on this playmat, the 3 copies of Forbidden Lance and of the 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice. I think Forbidden Lance is pretty standard. Everyone kind of knows it by now. And the Forbidden Chalice is just like the alternative option if you didn't want to play Infinite Impermanence. I decided to play Forbidden Chalice because 1, I just like the Forbidden archetype a lot, and 2, I wanted to be more proactive on my turn as opposed to being reactive on my opponent's turn with Infinite Impermanence as a hand trap. And of course, it has random other pros in that it's not a trap card, so unlike Infinite Impermanence, it can still be used against decks like Labyrinth and Trap Tricks a lot more effectively, because Trap Trick monsters are pretty much unaffected by trap cards, and then Labyrinth, they can start chaining Lady to your Infinite Impermanence, which is all sorts of funny. And of course, 3 copies of Book of Moon in the main deck. Not Book of Eclipse because I didn't want to lose to Ash Blossom when I really wanted to flip something face down. And before the regional, I was actually playing 3 copies of Enemy Controller instead of Book of Moon in the main deck, and I kind of wish I kept it as Enemy Controller, but alas, I decided to be safe, quote unquote, and play a more cookie cutter list, and Book of Moon is more cookie cutter. And of course, I played the 1 copy of Kashtira Big Bang for the combo and 1 copy of Kashtira Preparations for the Kashtira Ogre. Funnily enough, I didn't actually play a lot of mirror matches, but the 1 mirror match I did play, we both knew that each other, we both had Kashtira Big Bang, and we both knew it. It's sort of like the vibe we got from the game state, so neither of us ended up summoning any Kashtira XYZ monsters that entire game. So this actually ended up being a weird brick because it was just on the field dead, but that was a really interesting grindy game where neither of us summoned any Kashtira XYZ monsters because of that. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, overall, really standard 41 cards, like I said. And let's move on to the extra deck. I played, of course, 3 copies of Kashtira Riseheart because I was afraid of the mirror match, which I didn't actually end up playing very much, so it totally could have been 2. And it could have been the 2nd copy of Big Eye because I was only playing 1. 2 copies of Kashtira Shangri-Ira, very standard. 2 copies of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder kind of a mouthful. Of course, you need 2 for the mirror match. Only 1 copy of Diablosis the Mind Hacker, number 89, because I didn't really care to do the full board lock because I was trying to play a lot more conservative, which I think in retrospect I probably should have just went full sended every time. And then of course the other one-ofs, I played 1 copy of a Dark Armed, the Dragon of Annihilation. This card is really good. I think everyone knows it by now. It's really good, so everyone's starting to run it. I played 1 copy of number 11 Big Eye, which I sort of wish I played at 2. And then the 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosack in order to out Skill Drain, because I was afraid of Labyrinth flipping Skill Drain on me. The 1 copy of Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon for Time, and never came up because I never went into Time. And the 1 copy of Donner Dagger for Hire. It's a pretty good card. You can out your own Nibiru token with it, and the one match where it did really put in a lot of work was against the Kashtira Scareclaw deck I played against, where she summons Scareclaw Tryhard a lot, and that card's actually really hard to out. So Donner is one way to out the Tryhard very easily. And then of course the 1 copy of Entis, Elder Entity Entis, and 1 copy of Garura Wings of Resonant Life. These were my prosperity targets. Neither of them actually ended up coming up, so they didn't matter. And I was not running Baronne de Fleur, and there was never a scenario where I wanted to summon Baronne de Fleur, so it didn't even matter. A lot of these extra deck slots are really flexible and don't matter. So yeah, very standard stuff. And then for the side deck, 3 copies of Dimension Shifter, which I think is standard just to cover your rogue matchups. This actually put in a lot of work for me because I played against a lot of rogue matches. And yeah, Dimension Shifter, it's a good card. Really broken. I played 3 copies of Denko Sekka, just because I was afraid of Labyrinth and Trap Tricks. And if you're going first and you summon this, they just really can't have much of a turn, especially against Trap Tricks where all their monsters are really small as well. The only copy that can crash into it is Trap Tricks Dionea, which they don't run 3 of, so it's a lot harder to just draw it. And then, of course, for spells, I played 3 copies of Enemy Controller. I mentioned this in the main deck portion, but I really wish I main decked it instead of side decking it. It's a really good card. And then I played 2 copies of Darkhole, 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent, 1 copy of Triple Tactics Thrust. Of course, all the previous mentioned cards, the Darkhole and the Talents, were targets for Thrust, and 2 copies of Dimensional Barrier, which are the other Thrust targets. Yeah, overall, I would say for side decking, only Dimension Shifter made the biggest impact. A lot of the other side deck cards were kind of meh overall. But yeah, that was my list. I can say a little bit about the games I played. I went X3 after round 6, so I dropped then. It was 8 rounds at the Hartford Regional. And pretty much all of my games were really fun. Like, all my opponents were super nice, except for the Kashtira mirror match I played in round 5, where in the middle of the game, there was a misunderstanding where he thought I activated the effect of Kashtira Shanger Era, which of course I didn't activate because I knew it was the mirror match after I used Mind Hacker to look at his extra deck. So I knew it was the mirror match, so I didn't activate the effect of Kashtira Shanger Era. But for some reason he thought I did, and when he tried to summon a Rise Heart over a Scareclaw, which of course I told him that I did not activate the effect of Shanger Era, and then he just started yelling at me, screaming that I did activate it, and it was really shocking to me because I was not really expecting it, because all of my games were really nice people, all super chill, but that game was frankly a little bit toxic. It didn't matter because I ended up losing that game anyway, and then I completely bricked in game 2, so it ended up being a quick loss for me. But yeah, I think that experience kind of put me on tilt for the rest of the tournament, and I just kind of ended up losing, which is a little bit disappointing, but I mean, kudos to him. I think he ended up getting top 16 or something, so good job overall. Like, no hard feelings. Obviously, like, things happen and misunderstandings happening, so like, yeah, it kind of happens. It was just like, it was just the moment that it shocked me and definitely put me on tilt for a little bit. But overall, like, my following matchup, I played against Traptrix, and it was one of the nicest dudes I've ever played. We had a really good game, and I ended up losing that game too. But yeah, I had a little, that definitely brightened my experience. So it's always nice when you play against a sort of like an opponent that you kind of have like a bad experience with, and then you follow it up with someone with an amazing experience. So yeah, overall, like, really fun regional, and definitely really cool that my two friends also topped this regional, top 8 and top 32. I'll probably upload a video of my friend's top 8 deck profile. He got 6th place overall with Branded Despia, so I'll probably get a deck profile of that later. He's probably one of the best players I know. Really cool guy. Anyway, until next time, this was just a test recording, and yeah, next time I'll try to top. So yeah, until then, bye.